Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the members as well and to the guest. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Kulishwa, we can hear you, Kulishwa.
Oh, okay, thank you. Chairperson?
Good morning, Kodiswa.
Morning, Chair.
Yes, I can see that members have
Recording in progress.
43 members. 1, 2, 3.
We have members, Chairperson,
to the Parliament.
and we are the fifth one, so we can just...
Thank you, ma'am.
Chairperson?
Yes, Kodiswa.
You are the fifth member, Chairperson, in the platform, so we can start the meeting. We have a quorum to start the meeting.
Okay. And this, now I'm the fourth one. Who's another person? Oh, no, we all, okay. All right, thank you very much. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, AG and the team and the department. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you in the platform and request that we observe a moment of silence for meditation or prayer. Thank you very much. Can you then flag the agenda, Kodiswa?
Can you see the agenda?
Yes, Kulishwa, we can see.
Can we then get the mover for the adoption of the agenda? Can I get somebody to move for the adoption of the agenda?
I move, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mandisa moved. Can I get the seconder? Can I get the seconder to?
I second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Buthelezi, for the seconding. Kodisa, can you note the apologies? Koliswa? Koliswa, can we move for the, can we note the apologies?
Hello, Chairperson.
Can we note the apologies?
Oh, okay. Maybe I was not audible. Chairperson, Mr. Heron is not going to join us today. He is traveling. GM will join us later. The minister and the DG are attending cabinet committees today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koliswa. We'll then go to the main agenda and invite the Auditor-General to take us, to introduce who's here and to take us through their presentation. Auditor-General, let me take this opportunity to welcome you and your team, and you can then introduce who's here in the platform.
Morning, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, and Honorable members. My name is Tsepo Shabangu. I'm responsible for the Human Settlements portfolio at Auditor-General. I'm not alone here. I'm with Ms. Nobile Msanga, who's the Audit Manager at the Office of the Auditor-General. And Ms. Corne Mayberg, who's our Business Unit Leader, is still caught up in a meeting with a minister. She'll join us as soon as she's finished in that meeting. Thank you, Chair.
You can then proceed, lead us in your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I'll ask Ms. Makopoi to please slide it for me. Thank you, Chair, Honorable Chair and Honorable members for giving us the opportunity to engage with you on the material irregularities that have been raised in the human settlement portfolio. Chair, we will start off by sharing our mission and vision, which I think the honorable members are familiar with, which emphasize that Auditor-General of South Africa is has a constitutional mandate as a supreme audit institution to strengthen our country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through auditing, thereby building public confidence. And our vision is to be recognized by all stakeholders as a relevant supreme audit institution that enhances public sector accountability. And Chair, the next slide also, I'm sure Honorable Chair and Honorable members are familiar with it as we present it every time we engage with the stakeholders. It's just a reminder of the accountability ecosystem and the important role that each stakeholder plays in this value chain to ensure that our citizens get the desired or required service delivery. We can skip this slide, Chair. The next slide also is just a reminder, Chair, of the expanded mandate of the Office of the Auditor-General. We have been sharing this slide also in the past with you. We just thought it would be relevant also to remind members of our expanded mandate, as today we are discussing the material irregularities which emanate from the expanded mandate that was given to us. We just want to remind the portfolio committee that the expanded mandate did not change the role of and responsibilities of the accounting officer or the oversight bodies in their monitoring role and the monitoring role of the MEC and the provincial parliament to prevent and deal with irregularities. We're emphasizing provincial parliament here because we will be mainly discussing the material irregularities from the 9 provinces, Chairperson. But not all provinces have the material irregularities. You will see as we progress in our presentation. So, Chair, I would like to skip this slide for members' own reading. Even the definition, we just wanted to remind the members around the definition and the process of the material irregularity. And the slide that is being flighted now, Chair, is just to show you it's not applicable to human settlements portfolio. It's just the overall material irregularities that have been raised by the office so far. So it's just for your own reading, just to see that raised 266 MIs on non-compliance and suspected fraud, resulting in 240 material financial loss, which is estimated at 14.3 billion. And there are 9 MIs overall, which relate to the misuse of material and public resources. And there are 3 which relates to substantial harm to the general public. The substantial harm to the general public and misuse of material public resource, even the substantial harm to the public sector institutions, don't necessarily result in a financial loss, like the ones mentioned, which hence they don't have a rand value, like the 14.3 billion that is shown for the 240 material financial loss MIs. This is also for your own reading, so that you get a general picture of the MIs overall, even outside the human settlements portfolio. We can skip the slide, Chair, Honorable Chair. The next one, now we are zooming into the human settlements portfolio, where we take you in a journey whereby we highlight the material irregularities that have been raised since the implementation of our expanded mandate. You will note, Chair, on the slide that we indicate that in the human settlements portfolio, we raised 24 material irregularities since the inception of this MI process, and only 6 provinces had or have material irregularities, which is Free State, Northwest, Gauteng Province, Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. The other 3 provinces which are not listed here, which is Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and Mpumalanga, we have not raised material irregularities yet in those provinces. And on the right-hand side, sorry, before I move, you will see that Eastern Cape and Gauteng Province have the biggest share of the material irregularities that were raised since the inception of the material irregularities implementation process. And the total material loss or potential material loss is estimated to be 449 million across the 6 provinces, with Gauteng having a bigger chunk of 40%. That 40% in rand value is 178 million rand, and the bulk of it, the biggest one in Gauteng, out of the 4 MIs, they have 4 MIs in total. The biggest one is 116 million, which relates to the red ends contract, fruitless expenditure that was paid on, that was spent on late payment on an invoice. So it's interest on late payment. So yeah, it's the one that is taking the biggest chunk of Gauteng's MI. And the second one, that you see that Eastern Cape is number 2, and the total being 167 million million rand, and the total MIs there are 6. But there's one MI that is for 127 million, which was a payment of agency fee without any value added. And the second one, which was also huge at around 16.5 million, it was for payment for services not rendered for TRUs. And you'll see that also Free State is following the Eastern Cape with 17%, which totals to 74 million. That 17% from Free State is 17 million. So that is just an overall picture to show the rand value and the piece of the pie that is split across the 6 provinces that are affected by this graphic. And if you move to the right, this is where we show you the nature of the material irregularities. You will note that the biggest one is the 6, which relates to the COVID extensions, which could have been avoided, and all of them were in the Free State. The 6 there, where we say COVID-19 extension could have been avoided, all of them occurred in the Free State province. And the second one, the nature is procurement and contract management. And you realize, there's joint number 1. I missed the joint number 1, which is goods or services not delivered. And Eastern Cape there has 2 MIs on goods and services not delivered. Free State has 1, Gauteng Province has 1, and Northern Cape has 2 goods or services not delivered. In the procurement and contract management is number 2. You will see there that it's 4 from Eastern Cape and 1 from GP, just to give you a picture in terms of where these MIs are coming from. And the third biggest one is overpayments, the orange color there, where the 4 MIs are coming from, 2 from Northwest and another 2 from the Free State, which it makes up the 4 material irregularities affecting the overpayments. And number 4 is the payment made to incorrect beneficiaries. The green color there, it's 1 from the Western Cape in relation to payment to incorrect beneficiary, and 1 from Gauteng province. So that is just the high-level overview of the total amount of the estimated financial loss for the MIs, as well as the nature of the material irregularities that has been raised. And if we move over to the next slide, which also unpacks the previous second graphic in the previous slide, where we show you that the procurement and contract management, for example, the 5, which are coming from Eastern Cape. Apologies for that. Someone is trying to call me. Apology, Honorable Chair. The 4 are coming from the Eastern Cape, where the contracts were not awarded to the highest scoring bidder. The 23 million total value of the 4 contracts. We reported on them even previously. They've been resolved because appropriate action was taken and the contracts were stopped. And the Eastern Cape Department managed to save the 23 million financial loss. And the one from Gauteng, It's also resolved. It was the rental of the 200 TRUs since 2016 instead of buying them. The contract was eventually cancelled. There was no evidence that the procurement process was followed. The total value was 59 million, Honorable Chair, for this one. It was in the Deep Kloof hostels. And the second one, the 4 overpayments, it's affecting 2 in Northwest, where it's a Bazani developers, the 7 million, where 27.5 million was paid instead of 20 million. So there's a difference there of overpayment. And the second one is the King and Associates overpayment for services not rendered. And since our last briefing, the MIs here in Northwest, both of them, Bazani and Kings and Associates, they've been referred to the Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigation, which is the Hawks, the subs department, the South African Police Service. So they are subjected to an investigation by the Hawks as we speak. And the Free State's G hostel in Velcom. Yeah, that one has been there with us, and also there's another one from Kronstadt. So the 2 from Free State is 1 for the G hostel and the 7 million for Kronstadt duplicate payment. So the total is 27 million. And we also have the payments to incorrect beneficiaries. The 2, where the 6 million is from Western Cape in relation to payment of the finance link, the subsidy program to the incorrect beneficiary. This one was resolved in 2022. Hence, I said we are just sharing the overall milestone in the MI process since the inception of our expanded mandate. So some will be resolved, some will still be in progress. And the other one, under payment to incorrect beneficiaries, is the one from Gauteng. It's also resolved, where the department is awaiting feedback from the NPA regarding the court application for asset forfeiture. So the NPA also indicated that they are awaiting responses. So at the moment it's outside the control of the accounting officer. It relates to, I think, 2.5 million estimated financial loss there. The 6 that I referred to in the previous slide, the extensions that could have been avoided, they all relate to Free State, and they were all during the time of the COVID-19. And the interesting one, the harm to public, it's the first of its kind in the portfolio. It's not related to financial loss. It's the one where it was raised around the fact that the department failed to achieve the majority of its key performance indicators, which are linked to its key mandate. So this one is linked to service delivery. Hence, we are saying it is harm to public. There's no rent value associated to it, but it's quantified in terms of the impact of the non-achievement of the key performance indicators, which are linked to the mandate of the department. That impact that is suffered by the ordinary citizens of our country. Yeah, so you will see that it's a different nature compared to the others. Hence, it doesn't have a rent value. Chairperson. Chair, we can move to the next slide. Where we talk about the material irregularity process is making an impact. Chair, here we just giving you an overall status of where we are with the MIs. And Chair, if you look at the status, out of the 24 MIs that I indicated that we raised, 12 have been resolved. And resolved means that eventually the accounting officer implemented what was required. So 12, the 4 were in Eastern Cape. It's those ones where we said the 4 contracts were stopped, where the awards was made to not the highest bidder, so not the lowest bidder. And 5 were in Free State, and 2 were in Gauteng province, and the 1 in Western Cape, around the first incorrect payment beneficiary. And we also sharing with you that there are still 3 MIs by the Material Irregularities Unit, GSA. And this is where now there's interaction between our office and the provincial departments, as well as ourselves as the regularity auditors, in terms of assessing the status of the MIs. And the 2 in Eastern Cape is those 2 where we previously reported that the accounting officer was in dispute of the 2 MIs. And as we speak now, the accounting officer that was disputing this 2 MIs is no longer there. And there's an acting accounting officer now. So we have to reissue a request for information to give the new accounting officer the opportunity to take over the MI process, which we are doing in all departments and entities when a new accounting officer come in to take over the process. So we issued the RFI to the accounting officer. We are still waiting for a response. And RFI is the request for information or an honorable chair. So we're still waiting for the response to see whether the acting accounting officer will also be in dispute with the MI, or he will take our MI and then implement the recommendations. And this one in the Northern Cape as well. I think it's the one on the Rato Park, where we are also still confronting some of the money. And Chair, there's been 6 referrals to the DPCI for further investigation. As opposed to the last time where I think we indicated that there were 3 investigations. You will see now that there's 4 referrals in the Free State now to the Hawks, and 2 in Northwest. Sorry, I skipped the one where the accounting officer, we said, is awaiting the forensic report from the Office of the Premier. The accounting officer received, since our last engagement, the accounting officer of Gauteng received the forensic report from the Premier's office, and then is closing the gaps. They are saying that currently they are closing the shortcomings in the report from the investigation. So that is the status from the previous report that we made. So at least the report came through from the Premier's office. The accounting office indicated that we are still closing the shortcomings. And we have 4 MIs where recommendations were included in the audit report. Chairperson, it's 1 in the Northern Cape, the Lerato Park. The Northwest is 2, those 2 that I referred to previously. The Bazani developers, where 27.5 million was paid instead of 20 million. Chair, and the Kings and Associate, where 3 million was paid for services not rendered. So we have subsequently included the recommendations in the audit report for those 2. And we're also emphasizing the one where I said it's a harm MI, and it's different in nature, that we are assessing the response from the accounting officer. This one is a new one. It was raised in December 2023. So it's fairly brand new. but at least the accounting officer has given us the response, and we are assessing the accounting officer's response on that one, Chair. And on the right, Chair, we showing you the responsive accounting officer, so that the response accounting officers took. And so you will see that the 23 million is where the financial losses were prevented from taking place. Those are the 4 MIs that took place in the Eastern Cape, where the contract was cancelled before the payment was made. So it shows that the MI process is working. And for this one, there's no movement. It was 23 million when we gave you the last feedback, and it's still 23 million now. And the 26 million financial loss in process being recovered. It's the one, both of them, the total 26 million comes from the 2 MIs from Free State, where 20 million is in the process of being recovered from the GeoStel project in Velcom. And the other one is the 6 million from the Kronstadt project, just to give you context. So that at least this 26 million is in the process of being recovered. And at the bottom, we are showing you, Chair, that the 6 provinces, all 6 provinces where MIs were raised, it was identified that the internal controls which resulted in the MI taking place have been improved to prevent the reoccurrence in future. So the 6 represents the 6 provinces where the MIs were raised. And the 18, Chair, it's the people or the officials identified in disciplinary processes were completed or are in process. It's 15 in the Eastern Cape and 3 in Gauteng province. Previously, there were 15 only in our last submission to the portfolio committee. Now the number has increased by 3 officials. Still are waiting for other provinces, the other 4 provinces. And there's one investigation that is instituted by the accounting officer. This is not the ones for the DPCI. This is the internal investigation that has been instituted by the accounting officer. And then we have supplier contracts that we stopped when line was going to be lost, Chair. There we made a mistake, Chair. It's supposed to be 4, because the 4 talks to the 23 million there above. The other 2 were for the 26 million. The financial loss has already occurred. We were supposed to minus the 2 from the 6. So apology for that, Chair. So this slide just shows you high level summary of the previous feedback that we gave to you. What has transpired since October to date in the last 6 or 5 months. Sure. The next slide shows you instances where the accounting officer do not take appropriate action. We take appropriate action, or we take action in terms of our mandate. So you realize that there were 12 MIs on which we are saying no appropriate action was being taken. Thereby, we invoke our powers. So those 12 MIs, you will realize that when you look at the overall items on the right, they add up to 14. The reason they add up to 14 is because the 2 MIs from Northwest are duplicated in recommendations, and they are also in referral in the brown area there. So out of the 12 there, we are saying the 4 recommendations have been included in the audit report as the accounting officer took little or no action to address the MI. So you will see there, the affected provinces are human settlements of Northwest with the 2 MIs, human settlements of the Northern Cape with 1 MI, and human settlements of Western Cape with 1 MI. And The other 4 relates to the remedial action taken by human settlements Free State, where for 4 MIs, the remedial action had to be taken by the accounting officer. The remedial action occurs whereby the recommendation was not implemented as advised by the Office of Auditor-General. And the referrals to the public bodies for further investigation, you see that we have 4 from the Free State, as I reported previously, that they referred for MIs to the DPCI. This is some of the movement from the previous report. And also Northwest has since referred their 2 MIs to the Hawks since the last report, Chairperson. And the next slide, which is the final one, is a call to action for the accountability ecosystem role players, which this portfolio committee is also part of, as well as the provincial portfolio committees, chairperson that are responsible for the human settlements. The first point there, Chair, we are calling for the accounting officers to establish ethical culture and foster accountability by ensuring a timely consequence management, whilst also prioritizing the monitoring of preventative controls. The second one that we're calling for the executive authorities and leadership, including the president and premiers, parliament and legislatures, their committees and coordinating institutions should work together to identify common indicators that leads to irregularities, losses, and harm. Insists that accounting officers and authorities address any identified irregularities and monitor the progress made in resolving them. The third call, the Honorable Chair, is executive authorities and oversight committees should adopt a proactive approach geared towards preventing MIs, and with the help of coordinating institutions, should strengthen processes relating to investigations. The fourth call, the Honorable Chair, is that for portfolio committees in Parliament responsible for public bodies should request regular reports on the status of investigations and must pursue any unreasonable delays. Public bodies should collaborate effectively with other stakeholders involved in the MI process. On the human settlements side, the first call is to continue to showcase the positive impact of implementation of our expanded powers to provincial parliamentary human settlement committees to encourage the swift resolution of MIs, thereby enabling a greater impact. And to also advocate to provincial parliamentary human settlements committees for greater accountability where there are unreasonable delays by accounting officers and public bodies in resolving MIs. Continue to ensure that the accounting officers are held accountable for both their actions taken to address MIs and the timelines of their efforts in resolving these matters. The biggest call, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, is for the accounting officers to put preventative controls in place to ensure that MIs don't occur, because it's less costly to prevent MIs rather than having reactive or being reactive and trying to deal with an MI once it has occurred. So that will save discuss money and also ensure that there's time to deal with other pressing issues which are affecting the service delivery to the people of the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Auditor-General. We'll now go to the second presentation, and we'll take deliberations for both presentations. Who's leading CFO?
Honorable Chairperson, members, colleagues from the AG and colleagues from the department, good morning. Honorable Chairperson, my name is Lucy Sinembile. I am leading today's delegation. I'm here with acting DDG Corporate Services, officials from the Office of the DG, officials from the Office of the Minister, and officials from the Office of the Deputy Minister. We will be taking through, am I sharing or Koliso, are you going to share from your side?
Please share, Sister Lucy, you have the right.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. The presentation that we have submitted, Chairperson, is to talk about the consequence management that happened during the financial year under review, the one that AG has spoken about. So, Chairperson, the background information or where we are departing from was from the report that was submitted by the Auditor-General around September when they presented at the very same portfolio committee regarding the material irregularities that my colleague was talking about. And one of the recommendations was for the Minister of Human and Settlements to ensure that the accounting officers of the 5 provinces, when you look at that report, it excluded the Western Cape. Hence, we did not include the Western Cape, but all the information is exactly the same as what the AG has submitted. For Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Northwest and Northern Cape that are held accountable for their actions. There are actions that are leading to material irregularities. And but we want to put on record, Honorable Chairperson, that it is important to note that, and is what the AG has spoken about towards the end of their presentation, that there are several executive authorities. So when you look at the provincial departments, the MECs are the executive authorities in provinces. And in compliance with the Constitution and the Intergovernmental Act, the minister cannot hold HODs in the provinces accountable. But however, we are working together with the provinces so that they are held accountable for the transgressions. So, Chair, I'm going to talk to the Eastern Cape, but I'm not going to mention the irregularities because the colleague has already spoken about. But the Eastern Cape, Chair, they did indicate that 5 officials, consequence management has been undertaken against the 5 officials that were found wanting on those, the MIs that the AG has spoken about. And when we went to Free State to find out whether the consequence management did happen, the Free State Province Chair and members, they reported that because of the financial loss, the one that deals with the financial loss for the G Hostel, the Dark and the Silver City, because they need to understand or get to how much actually is the financial loss. So they said that they've went out on an RFQ to appoint the service provider to determine the financial loss. Hence, this one, they are reflecting that consequence management had not yet happened yet. However, they are in the process of determining the financial loss. So it's a process of determination, and they are expecting that it will be finalized by the 1st of March. However, and then when we go to Gauteng Province, I think my colleague has spoken about the NPA and the Office of the Premier, that they are busy looking into the matter. However, we wanted to find out if really officials, there was consequence management that was taken against the officials that were found wanting. And Gauteng Province did respond that 4 officials and 2 contracts had been stopped. So 4 officials, consequence management had been taken against the 4 officials that were found wanting or that made this material irregularities happen. When we went to Northern Cape, Chairperson, Northern Cape, on those two MIs, they told us that they're still on the consultation and determination stage. So consequence management had not yet happened because they haven't finalized with the AG. And once they finalize and the report is out, definitely they are going to do consequence management if there are officials that are found wanting on those MIs if they are not resolved. And we went to Northwest. We looked at Northwest as well because of the overpayments, the one that AG spoken about, that it's got a bigger value on the overpayment. And they told us that they've just finalized the matter with the court, and what they did as well, they're still busy now with the consultations and the determinations. And once that it is done, and then consequence management is gonna kick in as well when it comes to Northwest. Chairperson, on this financial year, we looked at the performance, and we know the performance was not satisfactory because the second part of the agenda was saying we need to talk about the contractors. So what we are submitting to this committee is that during the month of August, we looked at the performance of the HSDs basically, and it was not satisfactory for all of them. And then what we did, we requested the provinces to submit their recovery plans and the reasons. So most of the provinces, when you look at the common reasons, is the contractors that are not performing on the work. Now, during the MINMEC, it was resolved that if the provinces were not stopping, and we had suffered as well the budget cuts during the year under review, it was agreed that we need to look at, instead of funds being reverted back to the revenue fund, we need to look at those ones that are struggling and the recovery plan is not convincing. Hence, we submitted to National Treasury, and this was a resolution of the MINMEC, that 250 million, because Western Cape Province was not doing very well for this financial year, and even now they're not even doing very well, but we had to stop 250 million from the HSDG from the Western Cape, and it was reallocated to the Limpopo Province, and then National Treasury has done the Gazette on the 16th of February 2024. We went a step further, as we were requested by this committee, to look at the consequence that were implemented by provinces, especially when it comes to the service providers that were not doing very well. So we went to all the provinces. We said to them, because one of your reasons was the non-performance of the contractors. What is it, or what are the measures that you are doing to make sure that we are able to spend on what has been allocated? Eastern Cape Chairperson and members, they came to us and said they are experiencing challenges in 6 projects. And out of those 6 projects, they had a meeting because they said that they're having meetings, and the MEC is also having meetings with the service providers. And they're saying that they have issued one service contract, a service provider with a notice for termination, whilst the other 5 have been given the notice for breach of their contracts. Because what they do is, before they can issue the notice to terminate, they start by saying, this is the contract, you have agreed, you are lagging behind, what is it that you can do? And if there is no improvement, they start by issuing the notice of breach. And if there is no improvement, and then they issue the notice of termination. When we went to Free State, we know that for this financial year, they went on a drive to appoint new contractors. And in those ones, they didn't reflect anything that they've got challenges. The next province was Gauteng Province. Gauteng Province reported that they had contractors that they started the projects. And some of these contractors, because of the change in the subsidy quantum from the 1st of April 2023, most of the contractors, they requested to be taken out of the projects. And that's what they did. And then they are indicating that because of the business forums, they are having a lot of stoppages in their contracts. And this is impacting on the contract value. Hence, some of the contractors around Gauteng province, they just leave and they tell the court that they cannot afford to pay the 30%. So instead of paying the 30%, they opt to be released from the contract. And when it comes to the poor performance on the contractors, what they did is they will start with reducing the scope of the work, and this allows the contractor to finish work. So if the contractors opt to stay behind and will request for the scope to be reduced, and then so that they can give it to the performing contractors. So this is what Gauteng has reported on. When you go to KZN, KZN has reported in 14 projects. Now, they have terminated due to the slow performance, as well as the dissatisfaction with the project subsidy quantum. As I said earlier on, because what actually happens is when we increase the subsidy quantum is not increased retrospectively. So most of the contractors, when they realize that they were appointed on the old subsidy quantum, and now they're in the new year, and they start applying that they need, for the remainder of the work, they need to be moved into the new subsidy quantum. And if we tell them that the subsidy quantum is not implemented retrospectively, they start stopping the work. So hence, KZN has reported these challenges, that they had to terminate 14 projects around the KZN area in several projects because of this, because there was poor performance and there was no expenditure on that. The Limpopo province as well, they've reported that in their 17 projects, they had issues with the 17 projects, where they had several meetings with the contractors, whereby they agreed that instead of them leaving completely, they agreed to reduce the scope of work. So in certain contractors, they reduced the scope of work, whereas, for example, in Sikukuni, Mogalakwena, in the construction of 36 units, that contract was terminated, and the other ones, they had to reduce the scope of the work, and so on. Then that is Limpopo, one contract, in summary, in Limpopo province, one contract terminated due to the poor performance. 8 contractors, the work scope was reduced due to the slow and the poor performance. And then the 3 contractors were issued with the notice for the termination. Then when we went to Mpumalanga projects, the same Mpumalanga project had issues in their 7 projects, whereby the contractors, there was low performance on the contractors, and what they did with the other, so like the other provinces, they started having engagement, and those ones who wanted to carry on, but they felt that they need their scope to be reduced, they did that, and whereby 5 contractors, the scope was reduced, so that they can be able to deliver on the reduced scope. And then where the other ones that they couldn't agree, the contracts were terminated. So 2 contracts were terminated due to the slow performance. And on the Northern Cape, chairperson and members, Northern Cape reported that they have got challenges with their 2 projects, and whereby there was low performance, and then the contracts had to be terminated because they couldn't agree with the contractor. The information for the Western Cape Honorable Chairperson and members is not filtered in here today because it was submitted late, which is yesterday. So it was not submitted, taken into account because it was submitted late. And then for the Northwest, Chairperson, the Northwest provinces, they are saying that they have got challenges with 35 projects. Now they are saying, overall, they have terminated 19 contractors in various regions due to the poor performance. And as well as they have reduced the scope for the 9 contractors. And as well as they're in the process of terminating 7 contractors so that they can avert that underperformance. Oh, sorry, apologies for that. The one that they sent for the Western Cape was to update this slide. So Chairperson, they've submitted and updated slide yesterday, and of which it was not filtered in here. But the contract that they're saying they were terminated, there were 6 for the Western Cape province. But yesterday they've submitted another information and of which it was not taken into account. Chairperson, that will be the end of my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFO, for the presentation. I'm now going to allow honorable members to engage the two presentations. Can I see the hands that want to speak? Honorable Buthelezi, number 1. Can I see number 2? Number 2, Honorable Mandisa, number 2. Can I note hands, honorable members? The only 2 members. Can you proceed? Honorable Masuta, you will be number 3. Honorable Butas, number 4. Yeah, let's proceed. Honorable Buthelezi can start.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is for the department. Considering that the termination of the contracts based on poor performance prolongs the estimated completion time of the projects and also has financial repercussions with the sourcing of new suppliers and extending rather their period of completion of the projects. I would like to know what measures the department has in place to curb as many financial losses as possible with the hiring and firing of suppliers across all affected provinces. My second question and last question, Chairperson, is over the years, we have seen how long-term contracts or over-green contracts with non-performing suppliers at Eskom have heavily financially impacted the entity. Therefore, I would like to know what policy the department has in place for contractors that are guilty of non-performance or those that are in breach of their contracts that extend beyond the scope of simply contract termination. For example, are these contractors permanently removed from the department's database? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mandisa.
Thanks, Chairperson. Mine is on issue of Gauteng, of the contractors that they have to leave because of the issue of 30%. What measures the department is having to avoid the similar situation, because it's not the making of the contractors, the condition forced them to leave. So what measures do the Gauteng have or the department have to make sure this issue of the 30% is not happening to affect other contractors when they come to implement the project as they were acquired? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, a follow up on the last question asked. Fears, which seems to be a bit more complex than one phenomenon. In the sense, at one level, you are dealing with outright criminality, where syndicates that seem to have the capacity to stabilize the construction rollout program of stay are able to actually frustrate that aspect. with impunity. Now, this is a nationwide challenge that goes beyond just human settlements. I myself, when I was still in office, we had a specific challenge of a Mamelodi magistrate court, which was 70% complete. And I'm not sure whether in that instance, it was the mafia, construction mafia phenomenon, or whether, and this is the other aspect that I seem to pick up, whether it was a whole community reaction to this grievance that construction contractors come into an area with their own staff from elsewhere, and that contractors themselves would have been selected from other provinces, like, say, Gauteng, to do work in Northwest, and the people in Northwest would say, but we also have capable construction companies here locally. Why are you overlooking us? And then there would be all these standoffs. Now, based on all these experiences that have been there for years, what have we learned out of this? Is it just continuing to micromanage, ad hoc manage this, or are we developing a whole national strategy around this? And if so, what is that strategy? And so far, how effective has it been? So that's the one aspect with regard to the delay or failure, for that matter, of implementing construction projects because of this phenomenon. And then the other question that was asked, which is also a follow-up from me, relates to capacity of contractors. To me, it suggests that our screening capabilities are put to question to assess the capabilities of contractors well ahead of issuing contracts. Because at the end of the day, time is lost, and therefore there is an opportunity cost. Funds are returned to the fiscus unspent. Now I understand what is the other driver of unspent funds in provinces, because we never really got to be taken deeper into understanding why this widespread unspent funds that are returned to the fiscus. And now we're beginning to see a clearer picture that it's not just a question of capacity of departments, but the value chain further down, where you are subcontracting out work of state to private players, in the spirit of economic empowerment, I suppose, as well. You are encountering serious capacity issues downstream. And what have we learned out of that? And what are our strategies going forward? Or is it just going to be a routine repetition of the same year in, year out, 30 years down the line? At some point, we need to pause and reflect and say, what is the alternative overarching strategy to respond to these macro challenges that don't just affect one department, but all departments? But Chair, the other thing, it's a pity we are on the eve of this term coming to an end, because we seem to get pieces of pictures to the overall puzzle here. The Auditor-General's emphasis today was on irregular expenditure, whether it relates to incapacity, to fraud and corruption, and outright theft, I must add, in some instances, it seems, or simply negligence on the part of those that are responsible for public resources. So that's the one picture. Then the department comes with a totally different picture, which reflects what I've just alluded to, inefficiencies in the value chain, all the way down to contractors, all right, and the walking away of contractors from contracts, which the other colleague raised. But then, as I indicated, also, the department previously painted another picture of government provinces, whether because of lack of capacity or whatever the reason was, funds were returned to the fiscus unspent. And there we're not talking of either the issue of subcontractors or the issue of fraud and or the issue of other failures in the implementation of projects. Now, at some point, we need to have a holistic picture of the full spectrum of issues that result in a province ending up either not delivering or engaging in wasteful expenditure or simply returning funds. Now, talking of delivery, there was the other aspect that we dealt with the other week, which had to do with accreditation of municipalities who are supposed to deliver on some of these projects. Now, the first point in this regard is that I'm not sure why the presentation of both the Auditor-General and the department today are confined to provinces. And I assume that the assumption is that the national is fine, because I don't see this presentation reflecting the situation at national at all, unless I missed something. Unless the understanding was that the focus today is just on provinces, then I accept and I'll understand. But in the previous presentations, we were told how even provinces are struggling with municipalities within their provinces who just either do not have the capacity or I don't know, political will or whatever, to deliver on projects. We dealt with the situation of Mandela Square or whatever it's called, the Bradell municipality or something. And we got told that in the whole of the Western Cape, only Cape Town is accredited. And it seems as if it's a nationwide challenge of municipalities, including big metros, not even having accreditation. Or if they do, it is at an elementary level, stage 2 as opposed to stage 5, whatever. So I ask myself, realistically speaking, what overall capacity does this portfolio, viewed holistically, from national all the way down to municipalities, what real capacity to deliver on its mandate has been developed, including the challenges I've alluded to of subcontracting, which seems to be failing? And can we do a proper comprehensive assessment to say, do we or do we not have overall capacity to deliver on this critical, crucial mandate? And if we don't acknowledge it as an overarching challenge and say, strategically in the white paper, how are we planning to turn this around in a major way, and maybe link up with the development, the national development plan of 3030, because we can't keep on kicking the can down the road ahead of on our way to Vision 2030 and wake up in 2030 and find ourselves we're still where we were 30 years ago. It won't make sense, 50 years later. So really, I think, Chair, if we can get an opportunity at some point to have a comprehensive look, as opposed to this piecemeal way of looking at the extent of the challenges that confront us. Maybe let me pause there, Chair, in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tseki, followed by Honorable Top. Dr. Kumalo.
Jefferson, thank you very much. And let me also appreciate that to schedule these two items in the same meeting, because I think the challenges that are raised here are because of the other not doing what it's supposed to do. Chair, maybe just on treasury, if you look at or maybe I can ask just a general question to say, if you could put a scale of 1 to 10, you guys normally ask us this question when we do some questionnaires. The performance of human settlement, I'm not saying compare it with any other department, but by itself, where would you rate it? Could it be 5 and above or 5 and below? That is treasury. Because your last 3 points.
It's a general, not treasure.
Sorry?
I wanted to say not treasure. We have Auditor General in the meeting, not treasure.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Auditor General. Okay, sorry, yes. But the question still stands. At which they could rate the Department of Human Settlement for taking accountability of the actions they should be doing, because from the mandate they have given by Parliament of South Africa. I think to me that's very important, because I see in the last 3 points, like I'm saying, it's like the accounting officer, political officers, and everyone involved seems not taking accountability of their deeds. But again, Chair, let me just go to where the heading says, I think it's the last second slide. The heading says accountability ecosystem role players. Item number 2 on that say executive authorities, leaders, president and premiers, parliament and legislators, their committees and coordinating institutions. Maybe that they are committees. We are committees of parliament, not the committees of president and premiers, based on the separations of power. Maybe there, if you can remove that there, because it tends to be inclusive. Maybe you can just say committee, so that we can play our role, the executive play their role, and others play their role. That's on the Auditor General, Chair. On the department, I want to sympathize with the contractors when they cry about quantum change. But I can only sympathize if a contractor was given a 5-year contract and every year there's an agreement of how much you are going to do in 12 months. So that if that 100% of the job that is agreed to be completed in 12 months, if there's a quantum change, in my view, that person qualifies because he would have done or she would have done what she was mandated to do in the first 12 months. So I think there maybe the Auditor General, Treasury, and whoever involved must assist the department. But I know many contractors would do their work. If they are given 5 years, they will do their work in the 4th year. And now, because maybe the department would not have given them penalties on the poor performance, and if they are not giving them or an increase in the quantum, there will be reasonable reason that has been agreed upon during the signing of the contract. But if this contractor does his or her job according to the contract on annual basis, I don't see why, when a quantum increase, that person should not qualify. So it's unintended consequences, which we can manage depending on the tactics. I would call them tactics rather than strategies, Comrade Masuta. Because really the strategy is about making sure that we transform the human settlement and generally the sustainability of those human settlements. But these yearly activities, functionals, they are really showing the weakness of the tactics applied by both the departments and the contractor. So that will be on my side in sympathizing, because all what I'm hearing as Lucy presenting, it emanates, the issue of the forums, it emanates from the agreement, law enforcement and all that. Because if agreements are clear, Chair, there's no need for us to have this fight. That's how I would see it. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable Kumalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all the colleagues, and thanks to both the AG and the department for their presentations. Chair, I think I've been covered on some of the issues that other members have touched on, particularly to the department's plans to prevent financial losses that we're hearing about. That's quite an important one amongst the others that have been covered. But maybe just to ask around the case in Northwest where overpayment, the MI was, the finding was overpayment of a contractor or a service provider when it was initially advertised for a certain amount, and that case being referred to SEPS. I'm just trying to understand what the investigation's purpose would be when it is a known fact that somebody actually paid a service provider extra. Maybe I can be educated in that regard if I'm understanding incorrectly, because in my mind it works that, in Ntombi you paid Peter 5 million extra. Why did you pay 5 million extra? And I believe that there should be processes even in the province to deal with such employees who do that, because it's misconduct. So I just want to understand that case in terms of why it's sent to SEPS and the province is unable to actually institute some consequence management when it is a known fact that, the work was for 20 million, but 25 million was paid. So maybe just clarity or maybe some enlightenment in that regard. We also welcome the resolved MIs in the Western Cape and the Gauteng province. That's very much welcome and encouraging to see that indeed some of these are being addressed. But what is a concern that I'd like to ask the department, maybe in terms of how it works, having my own also experience being an executive in one of the metros. My understanding, Chairperson, is that when a new accounting officer comes in, they assume the responsibility of an accounting officer, and there ordinarily is a handover period. So I'm not sure why issues of this important nature, the AG would have to wait for delayed amounts of time because there's now a new, accounting officer. So just maybe clarity around handover processes that the department has in place, because, from my experience in metros, I don't know if it works differently in provinces. That shouldn't be the case, that any of the work is halted or slowed down because there's a new accounting officer. Ordinarily, there would have been a handover period so that to avoid those sort of delays with issues that need to be addressed. So just maybe to follow up and get an understanding from the department in that regard. Also, Chairperson, what is worrying, that I found worrying, is the reduction of the scope of work for contractors. I understand contractors come across challenges that perhaps were unforeseen, etc., etc. But I think this question, or this concern rather, it's not even a question, but I would love to hear the opinion of the department, to what extent and how that relates to people's rights to decent shelter. When we agree at the beginning of the year, this is what we're going to achieve, and halfway through the year, we decide, no, actually, we're not going to deliver 20 houses, we're going to deliver 5, because the contractors simply just asked that, can we reduce the scope of work? I just want to understand the prioritization of the citizens when such decisions are made, and which takes me back, Chairperson, to something I've always spoken about in this committee, the issue of reallocation of funds. I just want to understand where we are at with that particular action that is currently being taken. And for sure, I mean, it's been explained. I'm not expecting anybody to explain to me why that is happening, but I've always asked, to what extent do people who are hired to deliver houses, who are unable to deliver houses, held accountable? Because we see these accounting officers year in, year out, and yet the people in provinces and metros are unable to get houses when there's actually allocated budget. The same contractors are reappointed, or their contracts are extended, or their contracts are not terminated. We see this a lot of times, and we welcome in areas such as the Free State, where contractors have been, contracts have been terminated. But this is not happening across the country. And I just want to understand again, as we continue to reallocate funds from the Western Cape to whichever province, and whichever province to whichever province, the prioritization of people's rights to decent shelter for me remains a huge concern, Chairperson. And I would like to hear, with that, and also in relation to the reduction of the scope of work for contractors. I think I'll be covered, Chairperson, by those points. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I see, I'm not sure whether these hands are the old ones. Honorable Buteleti, Honorable Masuta, and Honorable Zeki. Are these one legacy hands?
Mine is a follow-up, Chair. It was an old hand, but I just tried to restrict myself earlier.
But why do you want to follow up before even they can respond? Why don't you wait them to respond? Probably you can be covered, and then you can then follow up.
It was a follow-up to a question asked, which I wanted to add something to, but it's fine if that's the ruling of the Chair. Allow it.
No. Okay, no. Let me give you the opportunity. Let me give Honorable Sekwai the hand up, and then you then add to your question. Honorable Sekwai, and then you'll follow Honorable Masud. Honorable Sekwai. Honorable Masuta coming in. Honorable Sekwai is not responding.
Yeah, it was just a follow-up on the question asked by Dr. Khumalo relating to consequence management, to make sure that, this repetitive patterns get curtailed at some point. And I just wanted to bring in the element under the new, well, first of all, in relation to that, the department responds, the CFO said earlier that the provinces are independent, to paraphrase her, and therefore they cannot take direct action in terms of the constitution against officials in the department, but they can encourage the provinces to themselves take action against their own, which is understandable. But I would have thought that part of the role of MINMAX is precisely to deal with issues collectively where equals meet together and frankly and openly reflect on these issues and agree on interventions. So I just wanted the CFO to just clarify that aspect further, Chair. And just lastly, the issue of the Auditor-General now having the powers under the amended Public Audit Act to actually do referrals to other state investigative and law enforcement agencies, to say to what extent is that system yielding results, where there would be prosecution, SIU investigations, asset forfeitures, etc. And I'm raising this, Chair, because last week we struggled with the issue of Tshwane, which, I don't know, is it 18 years later? They have not succeeded in achieving prosecution. People even died before they could be prosecuted for outright fraudulent conduct. And then the DPCI says there is not enough evidence. To what extent is the Auditor-General able to give guidance to prosecution and DPCI investigations and support so that those capacities that they have can be brought to bear in the investigations? Because you've had a problem with the SIU succeeding in recovering, but when it comes to prosecution, the NPA would say, or the DPCI they would say there isn't sufficient evidence to prosecute. And that's why we came with the idea that we should have a concept called prosecution-guided investigation, so that the police do not say, well, we do not have the capacity or we don't have enough evidence. And then the NPA also says, well, what was brought to us by the police was not good enough for us to prosecute, so that we close the gap between these different institutions which operate with independent mandates. And that is to the Auditor-General specifically. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Sekwai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, leadership and the officials. Just two areas that I would like to get some clarity. The CFO is saying about 5 officials that have been taken to consequence in the Eastern Cape. We don't want the names, but I think we do have an interest. Has the consequence gone to a finality? Is it that they being disciplined? Are they being taken out of the department? Or is it still on the process plan? Because in the process of consequence, there's a process plan. Areas that you need to address and wait and allow lawyers, if there are lawyers, all that particular process. I think as an oversight body, we should be interested to know at which stage is this a consequence of these 5 officials. The second one, Chair, is the issue of the Northwest. Northwest has to terminate 26 projects or contractors or whatever. I'm adding 19 plus 7. Now, one is interested to know of, in fact, of the understanding of the process plan for a project implementation. You convene meetings of communities. You inform them about the project to be implemented. They get excited. They really get excited. And we know that the project management and implementation, it's not always an easy thing. It takes a year for the value to be created on the ground. Now, the implications of 26 projects to be terminated, it's huge. for government. It's very huge, and it's very huge for the communities in terms of their benefits, service delivery. And also the timing, Chair. The timing is not right for government that goes for elections, for this process of termination. I would like to know, I would wish that the government could have a process of informing us of what could be immediate interventions on these terminations not to happen, so that houses are being built for the people, let alone that the issue of elections is always attached to political role, but that's a government program. That's a government program for people to get their benefits and service delivered. So I would like to get from the department, what are the efforts that is involved with the National Department province not to terminate services that have been promised to thousands of people when you hear of 26 projects. Those are the two areas, Chair, that I would like clarity on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sifai. I don't see any other hands. Let me just add questions, starting by welcoming the report of the Auditor-General and joining honorable members to applaud the work that has been done in terms of resolving those material irregularities, which it's welcomed and appreciated. But just to add on what Dr. Khumalo has raised on the delayment in terms of HODs. You'd remember in past meeting, you would raise the issue that I think even if we should emphasize on the stability of department, of having human bodies in particular position who are not acting. But we're saying again, even if a person is given responsibility to act, you needed to tighten your contract that such a person would then be able to take decision and not saying I'm acting, therefore I can't take decision. But in the process delay the progress of government implementation on the programs. Just to say that if you look at this matter of the dilemma that I'm the new HOT, therefore I need to be given chance. It's not convincing for my sake, because unless if those the person who was acting is gone, and but you have officials under such a person who might have had that information, because it's a systematic issue, shouldn't be a personal matter of officials. The second issue is on the what CFO has presented, and Honorable Masuta raised important factors that is it the overall capacity of the department in delivering its mandate to inclusive of other spheres of government or the entire value chain. And one wants to bring the issue that we know that in public service there is I'm not sure if provinces are not the culprit in towards issues of payment of 30 days payments to contractors, where contractors are not being paid in time, and therefore then because you are not paid, you are not performing, therefore later on you are being terminated. If we can get the gist of this termination, the reason behind the termination, non-performance caused by what? Because we know how the officials can play their own dirty games in frustrating the transformation itself. Because if you look at the numbers, you are saying that in terms of the transformation process, you are then delaying the construction transformation processes because people that you are trying to empower or capacitated within the system, therefore they are unable to perform. But the second issue is the issue of the finances. How does are we taking cognizance of the as because we have responsibility as we deliver houses to check the issues of as we empower contractors, how the financial institution are coming in the board to assist, to avail resources for the contractors to implement these projects. Because in majority of time, as one time I was in the executive, you'd find that contractors they get the letter of appointment, they get frustrated by the financial institution to give them resources to implement, and 30 years of 30 years of after the democracy, how does the financial institution contribute towards these failures of contractors to perform? That's the question to the department. If you've not done that analysis, I think we should then go back to do even the analysis further, and which brings the issue that it's important that this would then motivate even the department to see the necessity of them finalizing the development bank, the financial development bank of human settlement, so that these processes doesn't frustrate the transformation processes of making sure that you have enough capacity in the system to build houses or to transform even the construction industry itself. But my last question is on as one of the issues that we have raised before was that as we terminate or blacklist these contractors, we have actually said that the MINMEC has to share the information and exchange, so that contractors that deliberately have not performed in Northwest, they should not find themselves in Free State and getting the work in Free State or in Western Cape or whatever. How as we bring this report and people being terminated or whatever, but for me, getting the reason why and national getting the reason why, and so that you are able even to you are then able to share the information such that a person who, as part of disciplining the contractors, will then be to say, if you have not performed in Limpopo, then you have been terminated. You are not going to get any work in government, particularly human settlement or in other areas of government, if the reasons have been established that you themselves a contractor, you are at fault. But if the reasons are lack of finances, which characterize the transformation agenda of this country, we should then see how must even assisting the contractors as we are finalizing, or we will then be able to finalize the bank that would make transformation easier. The last thing is on the reduction of the scope of contractors, which in my own understanding, CFO can expand on that. It would then mean that as you reduce the scope, then you are appointing other contractors towards assisting to achieve the goals as you have set for yourself. If it's not the case, indeed, one would want to know, as you reduce the scope of work, then what will then happen to the target? Do you have and the processes of appointment? Is it not going to delay and contribute towards the delay again of you not making the target? Or there is a system, as you reduce the scope of a particular contractor, you are able just to say this contractor has finished his job, therefore you can then come in and assist this one without being appointed, following the other processes of appointment. And what then would then be the repercussion in terms of the legislation and what the Treasury prescribed and the other law of accountability would put yourself in. So those are the issues that I wanted to add on the last one is on department national working with the MINMEC to make sure that they cap the financial losses, as other members have raised. I didn't get it how and the commitment of the department, how they are assisting to make sure that through the division of revenue or contract management agreements are able to assist in capping these losses. So if somebody can expand on that, thank you very much. We'll start with the Auditor-General, and then DM, you're welcome. I see you have joined the meeting, and then we'll then go to the department after the Auditor-General.
Thank you, Chair.
Auditor-General.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'd also like to recognize Ms. Corne Mayberg. She's here. She's our business unit leader. If she wants to come through, she can come through.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Minister, and the members. Thank you for having us. I think a majority of the questions was posed to the department. And from my side, I think there's just two things that I would like to reflect on. There was a question that said, how successful is the human settlements portfolio? And we were specifically asked to give a rating. I don't think we're in a position to give a rating of how successful the department is executing, or the sector is executing the mandate. I would like to just take us back to some of the previous presentations that we've made during BRRR, where we specifically reflected on how successful or how the department is reporting on performance indicators and how it's indicating that in some instances with specific key indicators that it's unlikely that the portfolio will meet its indicators. I think some of those key indicators is like the number of houses, the number of the title deeds, where we've for a number of years indicated that there is a risk that the portfolio won't be in a position to achieve those indicators. Then there was a question around the delays and in the handover, and I think it was more posed to the department, but from a Auditor-General side and from our material irregularity process side, it is a legal process, and there can be severe consequences when actions is not implemented, whereby a certificate of debt can be issued against an individual, which will be the accounting officer of a department or the board in terms of an entity. So in that instance, it is important for us to also follow a fair process. So our process will then indicate that if there's a change in accounting officers, we need to be fair and we need to allow the accounting officer then also to consider the actions that might have been committed previously, and then to be familiar of what needs to be implemented and what is expected. And in those instances, we will often, considering whether the person might have been in the department or in the entity, we will consider the circumstances. And then if it's necessary, the notification will be reissued to allow the new incoming accounting officer to apply their mind and to apply themselves in terms of how to proceed with this material irregularity. That, however, doesn't say that, it's an ongoing process and it's never ending. The timeline still remains that the accounting officer must respond within the regulated time, and then we can assess, and then the monitoring starts on that. So I just wanted to clarify from our process that to ensure that there is fairness, we then also take the new accounting officer with us so that there's understanding and appreciation of what is expected, and that there can be commitments that the accounting officer can then be held accountable towards. Then the last matter that I want to respond on is to say, how successful do we see the relationship where there's referrals? And I want to say that from we started implementing the material irregularity process, we have identified public bodies that we have entered into agreements with, where we can refer material irregularities to, especially where we see that it's more appropriate to the mandate, and where accounting officers might not have been then committing or implementing the commitments that they've made. So currently, in terms of what was presented by the AG, I think on the 8th of March, there is currently 12 material irregularities that has been referred to public bodies in the likes of PPSA, SIU, there is to the environmental affairs. So there is a number that is currently out there, and we've seen successes to some extent. We also, in terms of our agreement, we currently reassessing the agreement to see how we can continue to enhance the processes so that, we get feedback and that there is timeous responses also from there. Just from my experience, and this was not necessarily an official referral, but I'm just thinking about one of the MIs where I was involved with or are aware of in terms of the bait breach. It's not in this portfolio, but where, for instance, the SIU was involved, and there was definitely contracts was cancelled, monies was recovered, further losses was prevented, and that definitely says that there is benefit in this relationship with the public bodies, where they then also enter the environment and then also execute their mandate to work in a bigger effort to make sure that there's not losses or financial losses. So there's definitely successes, but we're also continuously reassessing the current agreements that we have with these bodies so that we can learn from the lessons and then also enhance future relationships. Thank you so much. Tsepo, I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to respond to. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Corne. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I think there was a comment from Honorable Teki. I think it's more of a recommendation to us in terms of the accountability ecosystem, where he advised us to separate the committee from the legislature or parliament. I think we can make promises in this form, but the recommendation is noted, Honorable Teki. And there was another comment or question from Honorable Matsuda on the MI picture only reflecting provinces, and I think if national is not affected. The MI process is also applicable to national, Honorable Matsuda, but the picture is we're sharing the MIs that we have raised so far. And it may appear that the provinces are having more MIs than national. It's also the bulk of the spending happens or the transfers from national departments go to provinces and so forth. When we have MIs at national, we will also include them, Honorable Master. Thank you.
Thank you very much. CFO and then the TM will be the last. I'm not sure when did you join the meeting and were you able to follow the the presentation. But let me give it to CFO and then you'll come after the CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am going to start from top to bottom. However, most of the comments and the questions, Chair, they are intertwined. Honorable Butele, the Chair, her question were based on the termination of contracts, and this, it went on to the Honorable Masuta and then Honorable Dr. Kumalo and Honorable Sihlwai as well as the Chairperson. So I'm going to sum up when it comes to the termination. Now, her question was, what measures does the department has in place to cap this? Honorable Chairperson and members, the triple PFA that was published in January 2013 is saying that each and every organ of state, they develop their own procurement policies. So once they have got their own procurement policies, what we do, even through the MinMax, is to share good practice. So we will be able to find out if there is one province that is doing very well. We don't even use MinMax only. There are other structures that we use that we can share the good practices. We had a CFO forum whereby we looked at the procurement as a whole. Say, what are the challenges that we are coming up with when it comes to the construction of houses? And some of the provinces, they said they are using 10 key contractors. So you go on a tender, you appoint a big contractor that can do everything. Then that contractor with a financial muscle, then that contractor will appoint the subcontractors. So if the others want to go and learn, they go. I remember throughout the year under review, Limpopo province, because we know about the Northern Cape. Limpopo province went to Northern Cape to learn the good practices because Northern Cape, when it comes to the delivery of sites, they were doing very well. And they've never even terminated the contractor there. So they went to learn the good practices to say, what is it that they're doing differently? However, when you look at some of these provinces, they don't appoint a 10 key contractor. However, they appoint professionals. They will appoint project management offices. They will appoint different contractors per project. Now, what are the reasons for the terminations? The reasons is a lot of reasons. Some of them, I'll make an example, Chair, with the emergency with us here at the National Department. So we went in a tender to get a panel for the temporary residential units for the disasters. We appointed because these people submitted, all of them, they qualify, they meet the minimum threshold. They all qualify. Then we looked at their financial muscle. We allocated work. Eastern Cape and KZN. These are big contractors. They went. Then when they were supposed to start work, one of them wrote to us and say, yes, you have given me an appointment letter. I have looked at the cash flow and I don't think I will be able to carry with what you have asked me to do. And when you look at one of the material irregularities that happened in the prior years in Free State was the material advance payments. So the contractors will come and say, now we are not financially stable, we are not okay, can you give us an advance? And that is not allowed by the Treasury regulation. So that is one of the challenges that we are coming with. So the question is, you have got this contractor that is requesting to opt out of the contract because they went back, but when they tendered, they were okay. We look at their financials, their financial stable, the turnover is there because we also look at their financial statements. But when they are supposed to resume work, they start by saying, we don't have cash flow. Because most of them, that's what they do. They say, we don't have cash flow. Can you give us this money in advance? And we know that advance payments are not, they are irregular in nature. So hence, most of the provinces, the ones that are doing very well, they will go with the big contractors, the 10 key contractors. Now, the second was, do we have a policy? As a sector, we are guided by the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. It is clear on the steps that you need to do, because when you appoint a contractor, you enter into what we call a service level agreement. In each and every contractor that you appoint, the legal unit will draft what we call the service level agreement. In that service level agreement, that's where all the steps are included. What is it that you are supposed to do when one party does not fulfill the obligations? And what is it that the other party, it is supposed to do? So all these legal departments in all our provincial offices, they draft the SLAs. Now, what happens when one party is in breach of the SLA? And I agree with what Honorable Teki has said. In the SLA, we will say, because this is a multi-year contract, for this financial year, we are requesting that we are appointing you for the multi-year contract, but for the 24-25 financial year, you need to deliver 500 units. Then, if you don't deliver 500 units, what is it that we are supposed to do? Now, we will sit at MINMEC and say, what are the reasons for the underperformance? And they will say, the contractor, there is low progress due to this reason and that reason. And then we'll say to the province, go and come back with a recovery plan to say, how are you going to recover from this situation? Because we don't want to end up in a termination. What we want to end up is it, because we have, and I agree with what Honorable Dr. Kumalo has said, because we have promised, and what Honorable Sufrai said, we have promised the communities, we are going to deliver 500 units. This is the project. We even show them, we start with the project consultation, we involve communities, we involve the councillors, and they are waiting. So we say, go back, have a discussion with that contractor on what is the recovery plan. Now, when the contractor comes back and says, I'm running out of money, I don't have the cash flows, what is it that we are supposed to do? So that's when we'll go back and look at the SLA. If the SLA, we start by issuing, because most of them, they are issuing the notice for the breach to say, we have signed an agreement, but now, as on our agreement, you are not delivering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why the termination comes in last. So for us, the blacklisting as well is done through the National Treasury. Because that's when the province, after they've done everything, if ever that contractor is found wanting, they need to go on the CSD, on the National Treasury, and blacklist. And once you blacklist that service provider, there's no way that that service provider will be able to do business with the state. Now, when we deal with the termination, we don't terminate and leave the project hanging. Usually, when you look at Northwest, they terminate, however, they will hand over to the contractor that is able to absorb. So when we request, when we go to MINMEC and say, bring your recovery plan, tell us how are you going to come? You identify the contractors that are not doing very well. You identify those contractors that are able to absorb additional work. So when you take work from this one, you don't leave it like that, you hand it over. So this is what Northwest has done. Because on the presentation, Northwest are saying, yes, we terminated 19. However, we have handed it over. And when we look at the performance of Northwest, they are doing very well. Because they did not terminate and leave it like that. They terminated and identified those contractors. And what the Treasury requests us, when we are doing the reallocation of funds, they need to know which projects or which project with the contractor on the ground that is able to absorb the additional funding. Now, the same as the reduction of scope. When this contractor is not doing very well, capacity-wise or cash flow-wise, then most of them, they will request that because you are expecting me to deliver 500 and I'm unable, because you can see now I'm left with 2 months into the financial year end. There's no way that I will be able to deliver. Then when you reduce the scope, you give it to the other contractor that is able to absorb, so that at the end, we don't have what we call a block projects. So within, because we don't take money from Mpumalanga, because those are the ones that they were speaking about, a lot of reduction of scope. They've reduced, but the work has been reallocated to the other contractors that are in a position to absorb additional work. Now, when we talk to the reallocation of funds, when we look, I'm going to use the current one for this financial year that is about to end, the Western Cape. Now, the reallocation is a final leg. Now, we came to the portfolio committee and spoke about the 1.3 billion that was reduced on the HSDG. We have already suffered a 1.3 billion cut mid-year. Now, we looked at the performance. When you look at the reasons that Treasury, they are citing to say, why are we cutting the budget and all of those. Some of them, not all of the reasons, but they will say that because last year you didn't spend 100% and then there were no commitments and the money reverted back to the revenue fund. So what we'll say is for all the provinces that are struggling, send in your recovery plan. Now, Western Cape forwarded their recovery plan. When you look at the recovery plan of Western Cape, they did indicate that because of the changes that are happening in the department, we are not going to either commit this fund or spend. Now, these reasons are not because of the officials. So you cannot say there's going to be a consequence management on these officials. The reasons that were put forward by the Western Cape was the change. We know that the Department of Human Settlements within the Western Cape is embedded, is no longer a standalone department. It's within the Department of Infrastructure. So the measure that happened, it made that most of the officials, some of the officials that were within the Department of Human Settlements, they were moved to other departments, and then there were all these other that were absorbed. So this process, it took them longer because they had to start by re-establishing the committees, re-establishing the agreements that were there with the municipalities, re-looking, because now you have got a new department that had to address most of the findings that were addressed by the AG because of the merger. So now, when the recovery plan says, because it was honest, we won't be able to absorb or to spend the entire allocation. We went to MINMEC. We looked at the recovery plan. Now, we have already lost funds back to the fiscus mid-year. Now, you are saying, these people, the recovery plan is clear and is honest, and we can see what is actually happening. What is it that we need to do? We understand, but do we leave the funds within the province? Because the Division of the Revenue Act allows that if you anticipate an underperformance in either of the programs, you are allowed. And the Act, so these things are deliberated at the MINMEC level. So do we leave or do we move the funds? And what we did with this one, what Limpopo, for prior years, we know Limpopo have lost funds. We have reallocated money from Limpopo to Western Cape. If we were to go back, we'll be able to show that funds were moved. But now that Limpopo has now moved, they've got system in place, they've got contractors that are working, do we leave the funds to go back to the fiscus or we reallocate? Next year we go back, because we know that all the issues in the Western Cape have been ironed out. We are able now. If there is any other province that is struggling, we do that. So throughout the years, that is what we have been doing. And these matters, they are deliberated in the MINMEC. As Honorable Masuta was saying, what does MINMEC do? And in MINMEC structures, that is where all these issues are deliberated in details, including the other forums. We've got the quarterly review sessions. And the quarterly review session is as technocrats, where we share all this. Yesterday, we had a technical MINMEC, where it was the technocrats, where the issue of the mafia came in. And the Eastern Cape said to us, colleagues, when we go to MINMEC, we need to talk about what Honorable Masuta was saying, that the issue of the mafia now is getting out of hand. We know about what actually happened to our colleague in the Western Cape. And I agree with Honorable Masuta that this issue is not a human settlement, it's the whole construction. I am told that in Tshwane now, it also has moved to the restaurant chain. So this 30% of people will come and say, bring your fee, is now around Gauteng province now, it's also even moved away from construction. So we were told that the security cluster is looking into the matter. Hence, we are also saying maybe the cabinet or the security cluster will be able to come with an alternative strategy. Because this matter is not human settlements, it's for the entire, because when you go to the Department of Education, when it comes to their infrastructure projects, they are having the same. When you go to transport, when it comes to infrastructure project, they are having the same. So now this mafia is now hitting as well the restaurant. So it's a big matter that needs cabinets to assist us with. Now, I agree with what the chairperson and Honorable Kumalo has said, and Honorable Chairperson, regarding when an accounting officer is appointed, there is no before my time. And in this regard, it means that we need to go back and follow up with those accounting officers. Because when you get appointed, you cannot say this one's happened before my time. You inherit everything. So with those ones, we will go back, Honorable Chairperson and members, and look at the ones whereby the accounting officer, they said that they won't go back because they don't know. We will deal with those accounting officers. And as well, this is where we discuss. The first time that we learned about the triple BRR report and the material irregularities was in our MINMEG. And that's where we hold each other accountable, because it's chaired by the minister, the MECs, the mayors, or the municipal managers. They attend. That's where we hold each other accountable. Hence, we said to them, that's why now we are able to go back to say, colleagues, here are the MIs that you were supposed to move on them. If you didn't move, why? Give us the reasons why you didn't move. Give us the timelines. And if you have done the consequence management regarding those ones. We also had a CFO forum where we specifically dealt with the CFOs, because the matter of the audit is dealt with the CFOs, to request them to come and deal particularly with all this. So in all these things, we agree that consequence management for the officials. Now, on the issue of the Northwest, I hear Honorable Kumalo is saying why, okay, sorry, it's not Honorable Kumalo, it's yes, it is Honorable Kumalo on the overpayment. Now, Honorable Kumalo, when you look at that overpayment, it has got two legs. You have got the service provider, you have got the official. Now, the reason why it is still going to the subs is because of the other league, but I'll go back to the province and verify, because it's a matter, when you look at the presentation, is a collection. Because if there is an overpayment to the service provider, now you need to go and collect and get the money back. So that is the part. Now, on the part of the Eastern Cape, we went back to the Eastern Cape and said, yes, you are saying, Honorable Suswai, you have given 5 officials consequence management. What is it that you have done exactly? They said to us, they have given them the written warnings. And we know that written warnings, I'm not a labor person, but the people in labor, they will tell you that the written warning is got stages. There's a final, there's this and this. And these warnings, they sit in the employee file to say, if you commit the same transgression, then you'll be out of here. So this is what the Eastern Cape have said. And on the issue of the capacity overall of the human settlements, I don't think it's the capacity of the human settlements to implement on the projects. For me, I think the problem, members, it comes to planning. We don't have what in overall, what we call an integrated planning. If we can adopt, that's my point, Chairperson and members. If we can adopt integrated planning, I'll give an example. At the technical MINMEC yesterday, Gauteng said the challenge and why most of the projects within Gauteng province are happening in the non-metro areas. Because in the non-metro areas, the HSDG allows for bulk. But in the metro areas, you have got a USDG grant that goes to the metros. Now, the metros are supposed to come with the bulk, whatever form of bulk, then the top structure will come in. Now, the challenge comes in if there is no integrated planning between the national sector departments, metro, and the province. Because we are not planning together. That project will not move. Because Gauteng will go and say, We want to come up with 1,000 lockups in the city of Tshwane. But those lockups, they need bulk. It means that the city of Tshwane should be part of the planning because we'll need them to direct their funds. We will need the Department of Water and Sanitation. We will need the Department of Transport. We will need all this sector department. So for me, the capacity, you find that is there. But for me, the matter is planning. If we can all come together and do integrated planning and agree on the projects that we will do, we won't have these projects or the blocked projects. Because when you look at the analysis that was presented on the very same portfolio committee on our blocked project, most of them is bulk. They'll say that because there's no bulk, we've got these houses, but we cannot finalize because there's no bulk. Bulk talks to is either water, it's either electricity, it's either all those things. So for me, is the integrated planning. If we can get the integrated planning, we will go far. And with the DDM model, that's what we are saying we need to do, that we are starting on doing. We need, as government, to sit down and plan together. Chairperson and members, I think I've covered. If not, I will be awaiting the follow-up questions. Thank you so much.
DM.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. Good committee, Office of the Auditor-General, and officials from the department. Chairperson, let me start by apologizing for joining the meeting late. I attended an urgent bilateral with MEC of Eastern Cape and Executive Mayor of Buffalo City Municipality as a response to a protest action related to 2 human settlements projects in PCM. I was told that you were once there, but your name came up from the meeting that you were there to resolve these problems. I also thought I had time since the department's presentation was scheduled for 11 o'clock. So I joined after all the presentations, but I've managed to listen to the questions. I want to talk about my experience, where I'm coming from, because all the issues that are being raised here are related to what we're talking about. Our responsibility as national is to give provinces money, and we monitor that money. And also the appointments of the contractors are done by provinces, and we have to monitor, as we are always told by portfolio committee to monitor. That's what we do. But one of the issues that all members raised, which I agree, is that, and I also noticed since I came in this department, that women contractors are better off than men contractors. I'm sorry to do that gender-related issue, but it's my experience that you'll never find a contractor give. They finish their contractors. I've seen it when I was doing this roundtable with honorable members, that majority of women, they finish their work or their job given. I think what other things that you've raised is about, I think it was raised by the chair, a 30 days payment on time. We are monitoring that closely. And as a result, very few of contractors are not paid these days. But what we do not do is to pay a contractor without giving us the right documentation that the work is done. And because NHBLC must go inspect that the work is done, and then we then make sure that money is paid to various contractors. When the minister joined this department 2021, the first thing that she did is to unblock the block project, which some of these projects were abandoned for various reasons that we are listening from the provinces. And some of the contractors, you'll find that it's not their fault. They were not given their money, and not all of them abandoned because of running away or running with money. But some of them, when you listen to them, they are not paid on time. They had to leave work, and they still owe money to people that were working for them. So we are trying by all means to bring those back, make sure that they're paid and finish up their work. Those that are not doing their work, as I heard all the members that you talk about 26 officials and also 5 from the Eastern Cape. Because I'm in the Eastern Cape at the moment, I will make a follow-up, Honorable Swai, because I don't understand that when you did something of that nature, you are given warning. I think warning are given to people that don't come for work, but not people that have taken money or involved in corruption. And I will make a follow-up with the Premier. I will ask them, and not, I understand we are not, we don't want the names, but we want, they must take stand, because we as nationals, we always get into trouble because we must answer for all people that are not doing their work. And some of the issues that were raised by Auditor-General, I will go through and make sure that we come together and make sure that we do the follow-up of all the issues that are raised by the members. There is something, members, that I think it's also coming from the meeting that I'm coming from. There is a new thing now. All people that, not all of them, people are invading houses, do not have houses. They invade, they leave their houses, they invade houses and rent out those houses. And we're talking about such things. And as a result now, that issue of saying we want to finish the house and give you happy letter for the house to finish, we're now changing to say, once you identify the land, the service site, the owner must be given that land. And everything must happen while you are there in the service site, because of cases of people invading houses. Because this issue of BCM is a big thing, that people invading land. As a result, we are coming up with solutions, all members, of making sure that those that are invading illegally are taken out, because you find that, and I'm told that some of them are teachers, some of them are policemen, which is, people are just disrupting government deliberately, doing wrong things deliberately. So we've listened to all the issues that you've raised, and thank you, Lucy, for your responses. And we will make sure that when you come back again, we come up with other strategies. And I was saying to them in the Eastern Cape that I was coming from Queenstown. I saw a number of houses that are not given to beneficiaries. I don't understand that, because once you've built a house, that house is a beneficiary. They must be given as soon as possible, because the reason why we have all this illegal invasion or occupation is because we take time. And what I've noticed in that meeting is that we take time to take decisions as officials. And I understand, Ulusi, that there are areas where they do not enter as officials, but areas of the principals, we must not fear to take a decision. If you do wrong things, we can't be, sit and write warning letter to you because we fear you. So we must take concrete decisions that are going to stop all this. I nearly said nonsense. I'm sorry, members. Stop all this this corruption happening in these provinces. With those few words, Chair, I think I have a lot to say, but all these emanate from people that are given houses. Is either the department is not paying the contractor on time, and then the houses are invaded. All these, it means we must plan, we must have an integrated planning. I think that integrated planning that we were talking about is quite important. That even from bulk infrastructure, sit down together, because this DTM, people are not using it, the DTM. That's what I found from that meeting, that we still work in silos. We don't come together and work together and plan together. And I will stop there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TM. I see there is a hand from Honorable Sifai, probably want to follow up, and then followed by Honorable Masuta.
It's a legacy hand, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Masuta. Honorable Masuta, you want to follow up? Can I check if there is a
Yes, it was I was struggling to get my mic on. Apologies, the chair, after the deputy minister would naturally have wrapped it up, that I have to do a follow-up. Chair, some of these things just need strong political leadership. Starting with the issue of supply chain and the rot that sets in, where certain people will never want promotion because they are at a strategic point where they have to do the critical signing for a contract to be approved or for payment to be made. Even below your CFO, finds the clerk somewhere, way below the level of CFO. And they just don't want to be promoted because they know that that's where the dance happens, if you like. I used to say to people, if you are experiencing difficulty with officials who want Jojo before they can, sign off your payment, or bring it straight to my office. Don't even go through the procedures, so that we can identify these people and deal decisively with them, both within the department and those that they collude with, in the private sector. Because we really need to start applying the right medication to this cancer of corruption. Otherwise, it will just continue to fester and fester like a wound, which will end up with the whole leg just rotting, So I think that we really need, between the agencies and the departments, those that are prepared to really take this thing on, to really, put their heads together to say, how best can we collaborate? If we have to set up people to monitor some of these people's activities, if we have to do lifestyle audits on strategic people in the supply chain, value chain, so be it. Chair, I found when I got to justice, a certain state attorney whose name I want to mention, who from one administration to the other was just getting away with murder. And we said, I vowed that I was not going to leave that portfolio without getting that person prosecuted. And he was a lawyer. And we eventually nailed him. We got him successfully removed from the system. So if you put your effort and mind to it, there is nobody who's, who is beyond, what is the English word, whatever, So I really want to urge us to put our heads together and really be decisive about these things. Because unless we do that, we'll just keep on kicking the can down the road and nothing concrete is going to happen. So that's what I would really want to strongly urge the department, collaborating with the Auditor-General and other public institutions to really strengthen their hand around this. These things can be done only if people are prepared to fight the good fight, put their heads together and say, let's work collaboratively and collectively to achieve this. I just wanted to emphasize that, Chair, going forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masuta. I think it was not a question, it was just an input around this matter. Maybe just to check if the department or Auditor-General want to say something around the issue that we have raised.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Zeki.
Sorry, Chair, to raise the hand.
Yeah.
Sorry to raise the hand late.
No, you are welcome.
Chair, I just want to check, man, with the Auditor General. We are doing an oversight to the department. Can they empower us? Because their report is not satisfactory against the department. There are some loopholes. I don't know, maybe it's a general question. Because earlier I asked them to rate the compliance of the department in terms of the rules, regulation, policy of the state and the Auditor General. But it's like they're scared to rate the department's performance. Can they advise the committee? We know what we normally do, but there are repetitive issues that are raised by the Auditor General every year. And I think we have empowered the Auditor General about what they need to do themselves when they see these repetitive wrongs. But it's like things are not happening, Chair. Thank you.
Auditor General.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So in terms of the repeat findings, as from an AG point of view, we're also concerned that we have the same findings year on year. I suppose what I referred to earlier in terms of us raising a risk that the portfolio won't meet their indicators, it's also an indication that, there is not a responsiveness towards risk that we've identified that could impact the impactfulness of the portfolio. I think we need to reflect on the accountability ecosystem, where we say that there is a number of role players, and every role player in the accountability ecosystem is responsible to play their role. And together, these will then, the picture will change and there will be more impact. Starting with the department, with the provincial departments, having a clear vision of what they need to do, planning together, making sure that there's policies and strategies, making sure that there is consequence management, that will change the behavior. And action plans to say there is an internal audit, there's an Auditor-General, there is other information that is coming, there is own monitoring reports that the department is doing. What is happening to that? What is going to MINMAC? What is the decisions that is being made at MINMAC, and how is it followed through and implemented? There's the audit committees. They play an oversight role. This information is also going to them. There is coordinating ministries and departments that also look at plans, at performance, at coordination, at responsiveness. And what is the responsiveness towards that findings? There is oversight such as the portfolio committee. So I think from our side, we share the concern that there is repeat findings year on year. And for that reason, as an AG office, we are broadening our reach to bring this message and to share and to give insights and to enhance our recommendations so that the people that is responsible for implementation and for oversight are then continuously better empowered. So that is what we can do when it meets the definition of a material irregularity, whether it's then in terms of a financial loss, harm, or fiduciary duty that is not being executed. We will then follow the material irregularity process so that we can also then go into the enforcement. But for me, at the end of the day, the answer sits in the accountability ecosystem where we're saying there is an outcry from the citizens in terms of providing houses, providing the services that the portfolio is being mandated to do. And it can only be addressed if all the role players in that accountability ecosystem is taking hands and everybody is doing what they are supposed to do in terms of their allocated mandate. And then together with all the role players, the picture can start to change. And that is how we can strengthen each other. I've also heard Honorable Masuta saying collaboration with the AG, with the department, and that is how we enhance insights, how we get to more resolutions that can have an impact. And from our side, we give our commitment that we are willing and we will collaborate and we will share insights and we will empower all the role players so that everybody can work together. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, AG Dia and CFO.
I've noted all the issues raised by the members. I want to thank for all the inputs, and I do wish that provinces were present to hear the wisdom of the committee on issues raised, particularly around collaborations in line with the DTA. Because these issues that are raised here, most of them are done by provinces. And then our duty as national, I think the Minister of Human Settlements is bold enough to take decisions, and she does that. And I've been in this sector, and after she has joined, she is taking firm decisions that this is not going to happen, this will happen. I think we will take cue of what you are saying, starting from the Office of the Auditor-General. We'll just have to convey the recommendations and concerns, and we're not going to stop talking to provinces. And also, I think what affects also the delivery is the change of principles, like MECs, you have this, and then the other one, you start from afresh. And now that after the minister came to this department, we do have a little bit of stability, and you will understand in the first stage there were problems, but now when you look at the reports of the Eastern Cape and also Free State, they're improving very much. I know that members were worried about these two provinces, but during our MINMEC, when we do the assessment, you'll find that they're doing their best. But what is important now, Chair, is to make sure that we implement the issue of DTM, of working together. Though with other provinces, Chair, it's still a problem. There are areas where they say they don't recognize, and sometimes when we go in and do the work, it's like we're there to take their space. But the department will continue to intensify its monitoring role while we cannot regain the time lost. Ours is to make sure that impact of poor performance on the fiscals is minimal. I think I must stop there, Chair. I've noted everything. We will then raise it also with the minister, all the issues that are raised there, and try to improve, and also talk to the MECs of all the provinces. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hands. Honorable Masuta, your hand is still up.
No, sorry, Chair, it's a legacy hand. Apology.
Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. let me take this opportunity to thank Auditor-General's team, Ms. Kronji, and your team for availing yourself to update on the implementation of the material irregularities findings. And one appreciate that on behalf of the committee. And as this is probably our last meeting towards dealing with issues, next week it will just be only to adopt the legacy report that will actually inform the incoming committee of the 7th Parliament. We want to take this opportunity that we have learned a lot from this interaction with ourselves as portfolio committees, and we are better than when we started. Today we can then be able to understand or improve the work of committees as members of Parliament, and we want to appreciate the good work that you've been doing, and we will continue. Those that are coming back, probably speaking on their behalf, they will continue to follow up on the issues that we have you have raised with us, the issues of action plans that addresses the root causes of the findings themselves, and the continuation of accountability mechanism, or strengthening the accountability mechanism as portfolio committee, and those of provinces, because government has got MINMEC where they coordinate and they make themselves accountable together as three spheres of government. I think it will be important to even portfolio committee to do the same, because you'll then be able to assist one another to make sure that issues that are being raised get implemented. You don't have the repeated findings, as the Auditor-General has indicated. And we want to thank you very much. We hope with the legacy report that will table before Parliament will then be utilized to workshop those that are coming, so that they should not lose sight of outstanding issues or taking issues further, so that the mechanism of accountability is strengthened in the ecosystem to assist the Auditor-General to do their work better. And to the department, again, to DM, convey our gratitude to the Minister and the DG, and all the officials that we've been interacting. We know that at some point we become hard. It's the nature of the work, and we want to thank you very much for trying your level best to make the sector to become better. And I think all of us, we can agree that the sector's performance is not as we started. There is a lot of improvement. There is, we can see the light might be still very far, but you can see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and all the outstanding issues will then put them in the legacy report, and make sure that the incoming committees take it further, like and in the meantime, the department should not say that Parliament is rising, they relax, they should continue to do this good work, making sure that like the recoveries of Free State and all other Swane and all those other areas that we have interacted, which needed you to do to support and assist, should continue to do that so that in the next financial year, this department can be better than when we started at the beginning of the term. And all the entities, their action plans of audit continue to monitor that are being implemented, and the root cause of those findings are being addressed, and close the gap towards the systematic issues that affect our performance as a sector, and continue with the transformation of this sector, and make sure that you continue to prioritize those destitute communities, because as the Constitution requires us to put a roof on top of the heads, but those destitute, empowering them and availing houses for them, it will then make them better people, and will then all of us would have contributed towards advancing the better life for all that this government has been striving to achieve. And with that, then thank you very much, the department and the Auditor-General, you released. And request members of Parliament that there is a minute that we have not adopted in the last meeting because we were disrupted by the system, that we finalize them before you leave, honorable members of Parliament. But now I'll release the department and the Auditor-General. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, last week when we put these minutes, we were disrupted by the system because we have gone overboard of our time. We took a lot of time, and I don't know whether it's just the system just disrupted all of us, kicked us out, all of us, and there was no closure of the meeting. So we had adopted the first set of minutes, and then we have not adopted the minutes of the 22nd of February 2024. So can we then look at the minutes, page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. That was the last page. Honorable members, can we then get anybody who wants to raise an issue out of this minutes? I don't see any hands. Can we then have a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Can I get this?
Chairperson, I move for adoption.
Honorable Zeki move for the adoption. Can we get the second? Honorable Sufai?
I second the adoption, Chair.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the 28th of February has been duly adopted. And I want to take this opportunity, honorable members, to thank you for availing yourself for the meeting. We'll then have the last meeting where we'll thank one another on the 27th after we have adopted the legacy report. We'll try and make sure that the legacy report is being distributed as soon as possible so that members can go through it and make their inputs. And then on the 27th, we then adopt it, and that will then be a seat for the incoming portfolio committee. Thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is adjourned.
Long live the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Comrade, I'm not sure whether I can, who's off? Is there someone there?
The meeting is finished.
Oh, Jolo Walisa Zulu.
No, I just heard your voice. I'm used to them switching off the meeting automatically. So now that I hear your voice, I realize that bye. Normally, I get the parliament chairperson, the meeting is adjourned by team. So, so now I'll bore. Haibo, Kanti, Harafetana. Yeah, no, it's okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.